you've enjoyed lunch. Sana po busog tayong lahat. At kung hindi man, ay bubusugin naman po namin kayo ng kaalaman ngayong hapon. So welcome once again to today's event, the 8th Philippine Korean Studies Symposium. I am Aurea Javier from the Korean Studies program of Ateneo de Manila University, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon's program. We are delighted to welcome our participants joining us in the safety of their homes through Facebook and YouTube live streaming. This event is co-organized by the UP Korea Research Center and the UP Department of Linguistics and is made possible through the generous support of the Korea Foundation. We wish to thank you, our dear followers and supporters, for your continuous engagement with us and for making events such as this one more meaningful. So, just a few reminders before we begin our program. Please use the chat box to send in your questions and comments to our speakers throughout the event. Kindly introduce yourself with your affiliation when raising questions. The questions will then be collected and answered during the open forum. We would also like to remind everyone that this forum is a safe space and will not tolerate any form of bullying and trolling, academic or otherwise. The organizers reserve the right to remove those who will create any disruption during the program. We would also like to inform everyone that this event will be recorded. Our esteemed colleagues are here this afternoon to generously share their knowledge, expertise, and experience in Korean language education in higher education institutions and the private sector. So please allow me to introduce them one by one. Mr. Marco Angulo has a bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and has been teaching the Korean language as a lecturer at the Department of Linguistics since 2018. He joined the Training and Development Program for Korean Language and Culture Experts by KOICA in 2019 and the Korean Language Teachers Training in Korea by the Korean Ministry of Education in 2022. He is currently pursuing his master's degree in Asian Studies at the Asian Center in UP Diliman. Joining Mr. Angulo's presentation is Ms. Sarah Eve Perlawan, who is currently an MA Linguistics student at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, the same university where she earned her BA in Linguistics in 2015. She was a Korean language trainer in the Philippine Missionary Training Center from 2019 to 2020. She also attended the 2021 KFL Teachers Training Program, which was jointly offered by UP Diliman and the Seoul Business School at Asst University, and the 2022 Korean Language Teachers Training in Korea for Southeast Asian Educators, a program that was sponsored by South Korea's Ministry of Education and the Korea Education Center in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Everyone, let us all welcome Marco Santeng-Nim and Sarah Santeng-Nim with a virtual round of applause.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Javier, for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon session. And we are happy to share with you our experience during our training last year. And that's why we just entitled our presentation this way. So 2022 Training for KFL Teachers from Southeast Asia perspective of Filipino KFL teachers. So the next, please. In this presentation, we'll just make it brief and straight to the point. We divided our presentation into two parts. First, we're just going to show you what happened during the training. So the training details, the topics, and how it was delivered. And we'll also show you some pictures of the actual training. On the second half is our experiences, our insights based on what we went through during the training last year. So next, please. Next, please. Okay, so here are some details of the training. This was called 2022 Korean Language Teachers Training in Korea. As mentioned earlier during the introduction, this was sponsored by the Ministry of Education of South Korea in collaboration with a Korea Studies Center in Ho Chi Minh City. Our batch who went to Korea in November last year was actually the second batch. So the first batch went earlier last year, but the participants there were all Vietnamese teachers. This time in the second batch, they also invited teachers from other Southeast Asian countries, including us from the Philippines, and 2 from Cambodia and 20 from Thailand. The training was conducted in Gyeonggi province in Yangpyeong-gun in a hotel. Next slide, please. Next, please. All right. So this is a photo of the venue of the training. It was Bloom Vista Hotel. Everything that we did, the lectures and the workshops were conducted inside the hotel. All in all, we were 28 participants. Originally, there was supposed to be a group of teachers from Malaysia, but for some reason, they weren't able to join us. Next, please. And here is the timetable that we followed throughout the training. It was a week-long training. We arrived in Korea in the early morning of November 19th. So even on the first day itself, we did a lot of things already. So from Incheon, we moved to the training venue. We had our orientation, and that same afternoon, we had our first special lecture, and then a welcome dinner after. On the second day, 20th, it was a Sunday, was our first cultural trip. So we went to Hanguk Minsokchon, or Korea Folk Village. We also went to the National Hangul Museum, where we were exposed to more information about the history of Hangul, among other things about the Korean culture. The following day, Monday, we had a day-long lecture. So we had lessons on grammar and pronunciation. The following day, Tuesday, was our second field trip. So we went to 2 educational institutions. We went to Inhade Middle School, as well as Gyujanggak in Seoul National University. Later, we will show you some pictures of these activities. The following day is another day of lecture and a workshop after those lectures. Thursday, our final presentation. So we were tasked to prepare a lesson on a specific grammar topic, which was given to us prior to going to Korea, actually. So we were given a heads up. And then another lecture on Korean culture. Basically, it's about Korean traditional music. And the final presentation, our teaching demo. And finally, the 25th, Friday, was the closing ceremony and departure. Next, please. Now I will let Sarah Sansingin to share with us some of the more details of these activities.
Yeah. I think Marco Sansinim already gave us a lot of background about our week-long training. So here, it's our cultural immersions. I would call these field trips also. Of course, part of being a good KFL educator, or I think, is for us to be exposed to Korean culture. I think some of the teachers who joined us in the program have been teaching Korean language for quite a few years, like some of them 3 to 4 years, but has never been to Korea. They have never been there. So these were good exposures. Like in the Minsokchon, it's a village. We're able to experience the traditional culture, wear hanbok, and do traditional stuff there. And we also went to the several sites, tourist spots in Seoul, Korea, like in Cheonggyecheon, a famous stream that they recovered back in the 2000s, and also the Gangwamun Square. In the Gangwamun Square, we saw the famous statue of the one who spearheaded the creation of the Hangul, which is King Sejong. And other modern tourist spots like the Lotte Tower, and also I think Marco Sansini also mentioned that it was quite an experience to see the combination of the traditional and the modern in the Hangul Museum. So you get to see like books from the Joseon Dynasty and older, and then you could also experience the interactive way of learning Hangul through like digital machines that were set up there. And lastly, as a plus, we also went to Cheongwade, which was opened recently in the Blue House of Korea, or the Dermalakanyang before. The next slide, we will just show you some of our lectures in action. So aside from like receiving lectures, it was also quite an experience to collaborate with our fellow KFL educators in the Southeast Asian nations. So one of the things that gave me the most impression was I've already participated in a few international like gatherings in school or church, but I always use the English language whenever I communicate with my fellow participants or attendees. But it was my first time to gather here internationally and use another language aside from English, we never talk in English during the duration of the training. We all talk in Korean, so it was like a very impressive part of the training for me. And I've been realizing that Korean has becoming a global language. And I'm very grateful to be one of the KFL educators in the Philippines. In the next slide, you will see some of our visits to the top institutions in South Korea, the famous Seoul National University. And it's one of these is a middle school, Inha University Middle School. I think this school is focused on robotics and programming. It was quite impressive to see like middle school students age 13, 14, or 15 making computer programs, simple computer programs. And in that picture, they created like a makeshift car, and they designed that and put everything there. So that was a very impressive part of the trip. And yeah, we had also in the next slide the music training, and our professor there gave some tips for us how to use pansori to excite the students and make them memorize the Korean words better in a very fun way. Also, we had our demonstration. You can see the picture in the next slide for Marcos and Sim and I. We presented the lesson plan that we created in a teaching demonstration. And lastly, for the last two pictures, we also have our closing ceremony. So that's like a short high level overview of our training in November. So we will delve in the second part for our insights and our specific learning that other KFL educators can learn from.
All right. So we'll just make this simple. And we focused on 3 points. The first one, here are some of our thoughts about the content of the training program. And here are some of my own personal thoughts. Number one, we felt that during the training, all of the professors who gave lectures on different topics were legit experts, if I may say, because they were able to explain certain concepts to us who teach the language, so that we'll be able to teach what we teach more effectively, and also in a much simpler way, so that learners will be able to learn the target language much easier. Number two, the training period felt a little short, although if I may add as well, this is just like we were part of the initial stage of this training sponsored by the Ministry of Education and the one from Ho Chi Minh. So perhaps they are also still learning on how to conduct trainings like this. But I share this opinion because I couldn't help but compare it with the one that I had in 2019, which was sponsored by COICA. It lasted for 2.5 months. And to me, that length of time was ample enough to cover important topics for KFL teachers to learn, and also to give us time to prepare for example, the teaching demonstration. Here, it was a little cramped because everything had to be done within the week. Although it was a good thing that we were given a heads up on what topic we have to teach on, but still, we there was one night that we had to stay up the entire night just to prepare for our teaching demonstration. And third, coming from someone who is not a linguistics major, this is something that I really felt during the training, even in the previous trainings that I had. Some topics, particularly discussions on, for example, morphology, etc. Even those terms to me are alien, even if I've heard them many times. But since I am not a linguistics major, some of the concepts that were taught to us were rather too complex for me to understand, even if I tried to translate them in English. So as a KFL teacher, a part of me couldn't help but think that maybe these are, yes, they are very important because they fortify the foundations of a language teacher to know the theories behind the rules. But uh, pragmatically speaking, these concepts might not really be might not translate really directly in a real life classroom setup. So to me, I felt that maybe some topics might not need to be taught in a very detailed way. Maybe uh, just so KFL teachers would know some concepts behind the language, but maybe not too deeply. Just that. Sarah, something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as someone from a very linguistic background, yeah, I understand that. But one of the things I appreciate was the discussion on phonology, although they also become a bit technical when they discuss like the IPA and also the placement and manner of articulation on where Korean sounds are produced and how it's produced. I think some of the teachers that there were teaching Korean for 13 years, and it's been their first time to hear that. When our professors made it very simple, not to dive deeper in those like complex concepts and terms, it was very fruitful for us, like to know that certain sounds are used, um, are produced using the combining your two lips together, or it is produced far back in your mouth or in your mouth, and yeah, and something like that. So it was very, very useful. And one thing that I really like, because it was short, like Mark Santinim said, it was very short training. They made it focus on a few topics. Like in our grammar, we discuss about omi or word endings. Honestly, even though I've been learning Korean, I didn't know that there are a lot of different kinds of omi or word endings, and we focus there on jongyol omi, which has a function of ending the sentence. And connection with that, because it has a function of like ending the sentence or like wrapping it up, we also run through the different levels of formality in Korean, and the four levels and also the banma. So it was a good lecture focus on that and how we can explain it in a simpler way to our students. Like these endings, we just don't just call them forms, but word endings, and this is like its function. Another thing that I like was when they share about the digital tools. Of course, EdTech is very important now, especially most of our learners are from what Koreans call the MZ generation, or those from like 1981s to 2000s. So some of the mobile apps, such as the Sejong Hangugo, Jenny that they introduced, and also Kahoot, Quizlet that we always use, and PPT were very useful. I think they also introduced a practice typing website. So as I've noticed, some of the students can write Korean like by hand, but some of them also doesn't know how to type using the computer. And also, yeah, it's easier to type using the mobile phone. So, hand typing platform is a good tool for teachers to use, especially in hybrid or asynchronous classroom setups. Yeah. And in the next slide, I think Marcos and Salim and I agreed that this is also like a highlight of our lectures. It's about the discussion of the motivation theory or the ARCS model. So ARCS means attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction, of Dr. John Keller. It was produced in 1980s. So it's a special lecture we had, but based on this ARCS model that was shared to us. I think the shift toward KFL teaching and learning is learner focused. So it's not just the teacher wanting to teach what he or she wanted to, but trying to get what motivates the students to learn Korean and how we can bridge the gap, like if there are generation gaps, how we can make ourselves more relevant or connected to our students. So if you want to know more about the motivation theory, I suggest you check that online. I think there are a lot of publications and related materials. I think by thinking about the motivation for students learning, teachers or educators of KFL will be able to better create an instructional design and also like a curriculum, like lesson plan, and then execute it in a way that the students will be able to feel that it's tailor fit for them. And moving on to the next slide, Ma'am Marcos and Cindy.
All right. Just in addition to that, no. Also, I'd just like to share my own personal sort of philosophy as as a teacher. Um, since we were talking about motivation, for me, it's really very important how students feel within and outside the classroom. And I think it was Maya Angelou who said something that goes like, people will forget what you say or what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So for me, I think it would be important as educators to make students feel comfortable and not afraid to make mistakes during inside the classroom, especially. So whatever means that we can come up with to motivate our students to learn, and especially to learn on their own outside the classroom, it would be a plus for us because we are helping them as learners, no? And be independent learners. Now, on another point that we'd like to share our opinions about is our own experience working with other KFL teachers from other our neighboring countries. Number one, it's just straight to the point. No, we about out of the 28 participants last year, only three were men. No, so maybe you could expect that we shared the same room in the hotel where we stayed. Um, Not that it's well, you might argue with me on this, but of course, not that gender has a I can't really phrase this well, but there could be a factor whether the sonsing name is male or female, especially in terms of say teaching uh, manner of speaking or maltuk, because there could be some expressions that are normally spoken by women. When I'm talking about the Korean language, there are sort of like feminine expressions versus masculine ones. So there could be a tendency that our learners will only learn one facet of the language. So, to me, that might be something that we should also think about as educators, because these are social aspects that also have an effect on the learning of our Korean language learners. So that's just one observation that I had in our training. Number two, most of our fellow trainees showed expertise in the language and in training, in teaching. Um, During the preparation and during the presentation of our final presentation, we felt that our fellow teachers were already really good, not just in the language itself in Korean, but with teaching as well. So for me, I felt that I felt a little inadequate on my part because uh, I wish that I could also teach that well, the way our fellow teachers did. So it's just something that I also wish we could have for our Filipino KFL teachers. So these are just some of the feelings I felt during the training. Sarah
Yeah.
Cecily?
Like building on to that, like they're really great teachers in one of our group works. Like when we're combining the lesson plan we created separately about a specific topic. I think it was Ulkoyo and it's chuchok or guessing. Um, Marcos and Sinima and I were teamed with someone from Thailand. She is teaching, I think, middle school students in Thailand, like the Korean language. And whenever like we're combining things and then putting up our presentation, like we try to become detailed, but she would always say, "Let's make it more simple. Let's make it more simple because the learners wouldn't like doesn't care about that part, will not understand that." And it was always a teaching moment for me when we were collaborating. I thought what we're presenting, like what we're doing, were simple enough. But from someone who has experience teaching middle school students, and I know and the approach is different with high school and like adult learners. But if you're able to teach simple enough the Korean language, like teaching more complex terms or grammar forms would be like I think would be more smooth. So that's what a very good learning experience for me. And yeah, I think I made this point before. It was always amazing for me during the trip that, oh, every one of us is like speaking in Korean. I forgot if I told that person in Korean or in my language or in English. But yeah, it doesn't matter for me that time what language I use. But I just thought that every one of us are communicating. And it happened to be Korean that connects us together. So that's really great. On another note, what about the 28 participants? As you will notice, like there's an even distribution. Like only two were invited in the Philippines, only two from Cambodia, and a bulk from Thailand. And the first batch were, I think, 36 of them were from Vietnam. I think as of now, like this is a reality in the Southeast Asian region. When it comes to the KFL learning and teaching, Korea thinks more favorably of Thailand and Vietnam, and we felt that of the training, like it's not in a negative way, but it wasn't aspired us. It inspired us, and we aspire to that status in the future in the Philippines. Like they have a very established Korean language teaching and learning in their country. So that's like Korea give them more opportunities. And I wish in the future we will have like 20 participants from the Philippines because we have 20 educators also here that they're able to impart more to our growing language learners of Korean. So for the next slide.
All right, this is the last point that we'd like to share. Just a general sentiment on the current situation of KFL education in the Philippines. This is in connection to what Sarah Sansing mentioned just a while ago. So generally, we felt that the Philippines is behind our neighboring countries in terms of KFL education, particularly number of teachers, training opportunities, and the extent of KFL education in different school levels. When it comes to the number, well, I don't really have a statistics to back that up, but at least during this training, as Salsan Singh mentioned, there were only two of us from the Philippines invited to this training. So given that we were obviously outnumbered, even if it was a really good experience working with other teachers from other countries, but still we couldn't help but feel ano ba, inggit. We wished we had the same thing for Filipino KFL teachers. No? The training opportunities, the fact that this training that we participated in were sponsored in collaboration with an institution from Ho Chi Minh, from Vietnam, we also felt that why can't we have something like that, like a Philippine agency, for example, who could work with a Korean government office and sponsor this kind of training. And at the same time, yes, perhaps it's safe to say that KFL education in the earlier grades, like in the secondary education level, it's still in its early stages compared to our neighboring countries who have had these schools offering the Korean language for quite some time, no, earlier than us. So this is something that made us feel that we are somehow behind our neighboring countries. And in another related note, we wish that there could be a more of a collaborative feels between the Philippines and Korea when it comes to KFL education, because here I'm not sure if you would share the same sentiment, but as a Filipino KFL teacher, it somehow always feels that we are just recipients of the Korean language and culture, but there's no return on Korea's end. Like how many Koreans know about the Philippines? How many of them are actually learning the Filipino language or languages? So this is very much apparent when we met one of the professors who is a Korean national, but she teaches the Vietnamese language to high school, I believe, or middle school in Korea. And she shared with us that there are, in fact, many Korean students who are interested in learning the Vietnamese language. So I felt, why can't we have that as well for the Filipino language? So we felt that yes, perhaps or hopefully there could be more of a two-way exchange between the Philippines and Korea in when it comes to language and culture exchange.
I agree with that, with your sentiments, Marcos and Signim. And to add to that, when I was collaborating with Vietnamese teachers on a group work, I saw that there are textbooks that are written in Vietnamese language to teach the Korean language. So, Philippines are known for, like, we Filipinos are known for being good at English. So most of us, or many of us, speak English or use English in a certain level, advanced level. But it would be good, probably more relevant to learners in the Philippines if we have textbooks or other materials that are written in Tagalog to explain the Korean language. So I think I remember one friend I had who was learning Korean, but all the textbooks provided for her that time was in Thai. And she was not very good in English, I mean. And she's a Thai from Thailand, and she's not very good at English. So when she was trying to learn Korean from English, but her mother language is Thai, she found it hard to learn Korean because in the first place, the middle language the medium of instruction through which she will learn Korean is a language that she's not very fluent in. So I was just thinking for us Filipinos who are not really very apt in speaking English, I think a Tagalog or probably other Philippine language like Cebuano, Cebuano textbooks or Ilocano textbooks explaining Korean concepts would be good in the future. And like establishing more connection in between Korean and the Philippines in those textbooks, like teaching the Korean language through connecting it to the Philippine context, like providing relevance, like in the ARCS model. So all the lectures wouldn't sound like they're detached from what's happening in the Philippines, but like bridging the gap between Korea and the Philippines in our like lectures, like classroom activities. So I think that's all of our insights, and thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, 선생님들. 감사합니다, 선생님들. Thank you very much for that very insightful presentation and also for sharing your training experience with us. I'm sure that our participants here have been inspired by what you've said, by your insights and your reflections and your sharing your learnings with us. Let me now introduce our next speaker. She is Miss Sunhwa Ju, a Korean language teacher at the Korean International School, Philippines, and Oleo Fats Incorporated. A professional pianist, she is also a freelance piano teacher. She obtained her master's degree from the University of Asia and the Pacific with a major in educational leadership. She earned her bachelor's degree from the College of Music in Chungang University with a major in piano. Miss Jo, the virtual floor is yours whenever you are ready.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. It is a very great honor to be one of the presenter during this workshop. And at the same time, it was a bit sayang that I was not able to fully attend. Yeah, my name is Sunhwa Ju, Korean language teacher, and you plays the piano. Yeah. The slides. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm about to present about the Korean heritage learners at KISP. And we are actually 필리핀한국국제학교. So, in English, we call Korean School Philippines. Like normally Korean who lives abroad, if there are 4 or 3 or families, we first make a church, and the second we open a Korean school always. So that's how we start. The Korea 필리핀한국제학교 established in 1970, which is 52 years ago. So it is not regular school. We just only teach Saturdays. So we just moved a lot. So from 1970 to 80, we just rent St. Paul University. And the next 11 years in San Agustin High School. The next 17 years, we were in La Salle Green Hills High School. But finally, we were able to move to the current campus in McKinney, Korea, McKinney Hills. That's Korean International School in the Philippines. So the 필리핀한국제학교 is not the Korean International School Philippines. They are different. All right. During the pandemic, we had also hard time, as all we did. So we also had to close our school for 4 months. Like 2020 March, we closed our school for 4 months. And then after 4 months, we began non-face-to-face online classes in July using Zoom and Google Classroom. The school had provided a teacher pen tablet gazette and had several seminars to learn various skills and then teaching methods for online classes. And successfully, we began face-to-face classes in August 2021. Yeah, the picture you're seeing is last January 14, 2023. We had a 53rd entrance ceremony with 244 students. So we have 3 different age group in preschool. There are 74. In grade school, 113. In the middle school, which is grade 7 to 9, there are 37. And then Korean classes, mostly from the multicultural family, there are 20. So the age group is vary in Korean classes. Yeah. And then we have those kind of structure, but the most important thing is we have 16 very dedicated teachers are there work as a volunteer. And we have also 6 assistant teacher for the little kids. Right. Yeah, let's move on to the how and what we teach. Let me talk about our school calendar. School year starts in the 3rd week of January and ends in the 2nd week of December. That's 1 year. First semester, we start January and then ends to June. It goes for 20 weeks. Of course, we have a break during the Easter break. And then the summer break is for 4 weeks, the June to July. And second semester starts in July. So it goes to the December, so around 21 weeks for the second semester. And then we have another break, winter break. So during the December and the January. So normally, teachers come to school early in the morning, like 7:30. We have a teachers meeting every week, and then the class starts 8:30 and then ends 12:30. So we have 5 periods. So normally 40 minutes of class and then 10-minute break. Yeah, this is the example of our timetable. So this period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see. For example, preschoolers, they just do the healthy life in the first period, and then they learn the social skills. And then the third period, like they are learning expression in Korean. And of course, they are more focused on the letters in the time period. And then they have a lot of different activities. Okay, it's not really accurate. It's just an example. And then, for example, grade 1 to students, they learn Korean. And then Korean, with the language, they have also activities. And then they have also music class or writing class. And then they also learn math. Of course, and then social studies, ethics, Chinese letters, something like that. So the grade school are they really focused on the Korean major subjects, and then they also learn some music and then other activities. And then we have Korean class students. They're from the multicultural, so the Korean language for them is more foreign language, not the second language, not the mother tongue. So we just teach them like grammar, reading, listening, speaking, and then also we try to teach some Korean songs to deliver some idea. Right. So our philosophy of education, our philosophy, like we really cultivation of international talent with Korean identity. So under this educational philosophy, our curriculum has 3 main characteristics: identity education, then culture and arts education, and the multicultural understanding education. So under identity education, we teach our kids Korean language, history, and then we hold speech contest yearly, and then writing contest yearly too. For the culture and arts education, we have music classes. And we just encourage them to experience traditional cultures through so many different kinds of events. And then we have also children's songs contest. And then also whenever just the Korean Korean Resident Society has an event, we also encourage them to participate in the Korean residence events. And then the multicultural understanding, we train them as a global leader. And then this is most important thing is that we just teach the multicultural understanding. So we just help them to accept easily. Then we also encourage them to do the volunteer activities, and then we just cultivating our artistic personality. So because like generally Korean culture, we are very competitive. So we just try to train them to look care of others. Yeah. Okay, let's go for the next slide. Yes. We teach preschoolers Korean language and Hangul through holistic, the various activities such as crafting, drawing, the cooking, some physical activities too. And then we teach grade schooler, middle schooler, the Korean mathematics, society, and history subjects using Korean certified textbook. Although it is KHL at KISP, our 필리핀한국국제학교 has a similar proportion of students who will return to Korea within a few years, and the students who will go to third country to study abroad, and the students who will go to local university in the Philippines. So because of this various purpose of each students, we are using Korean certified textbook can secure the probability and then legitimacy of key contents for the learning goals of each grade. By combining various other events and an educational program, students can understand and accept more the Korean culture and reduce the deviation from the local Korean students. We teach also Korean class students literally Korean language and Hangul through various activities. Like it's more similar to preschoolers. So this year we divided this Korean class into 2 groups depending on their ages. Yeah, so yeah. And I hadn't written interviews with our teachers. So those curriculums are our general things, but I just want ask our teachers, what do you focus more on when you teach? So yeah, let me introduce about this. Like the In-suk Jung, she is the head of our preschool. So she said she's just focused on the emotional communication with Korean teachers. Here's a preschooler in that ages, if they are not exposed to communicate with Korean people with the Korean language, they just lose their interest. So this is most important thing. And the Gina Kim is the head of our grade school teachers. So even if our students learn Korean as a second language or sometimes as their foreign language, but we just lead them to learn Korea and the history and the nature and environment, and then help them to understand, accept Korean culture. Yeah. And then Miso Shin, she is also head of the middle school, and then she's focused on the identity. Yeah, the teenagers, they are struggling with their identity once they are live abroad because of their parents, right? So she more focused on the identity as a Korean and the personality education. Yeah. And then Soyoung Kim is the head of our Korean classes, and then she really tried to give courage to keep learning Korean without getting tired of it. Yes, because it's really tough. It's really difficult for them, but help them to understand the cultural difference between the Philippines and Korea. So it's so happy that when they enter 필리핀한국국제학교, they don't speak Korean at all. They don't know 기억, 니은, 디귿, 리을. But once they are graduate, they really can speak Korean well. Yeah, and then this is my this is me, Sunhaju. So for me, I just work as a music teacher now. I used to teach grade 5, but for me, when I teach my kids, I want them keep interested. They enlighten them the importance of learning Korean. So if they have no reason, they don't want to do. They're kids. So better to enlighten them to know why we have to learn. The second question was what are the strong and weak points of our students? And then teachers said their strong points are they are more exposed to Korean language, but it comes to compared to other foreign Korean learners. Yeah, they are surrounded by Korean parents, friends, church communities, and neighbors, etc. Right, so they are more exposed. They have more experience to speak in, and then good environment is one of them. Like support from parents, they always bring them to KSP school and help them with their homeworks and encourage them to read books and then speak more. Yeah, and also Korean International School Philippines, that campus we are using, their facilities are so good. So provide them really good facilities, and we have long experienced teachers, right? And then they dedicate for over 20 years, and then a lot of them also over 10 years. Then just a few of them like me under 5 years. So imagine every Saturday over 20 years they really serve this school for our kids, right? That's amazing. And our students are growing up as bilingual, maybe some trilingual, right? That means they are learning 2 or 3 different cultures as well, so that they easily adapt to diversity and international community. That's the strong point of our students. But at the same time, we have weak points, right? Our students have weak points. Yeah. A while ago, I said they are more exposed to Korean, but at the same time, they are less exposed to Korean compared to native Korean who lives in Korea, right? So actually, this connects to everything. Yeah, as we know, the typical disadvantages of bilingual learners, they tend to show slow language development, and then it is pretty difficult to achieve a high level in both languages unless they are really, really talented. Either they really make extra effort to achieve it in a high level, right? They can communicate in daily life in a second language, but sometimes they cannot go further. Yeah. Also, they might have a weak identity as a Korean. Often they suffer from confusion in their identity. That's the reason we are here. Lastly, I asked the teachers to say something to our students, like to increase our students. And the preschool head said, she said, "I love you and trust you." Yeah. And Gina Kim, the head of our grade school, all of you made wise decision to invest 5 hours on Saturdays for your future. Remember, the koi fish that only grows 5 centimeters in a tank, but can grow only up to 20 or 25 to 5 centimeters in a river. By investing half a day on Saturdays, you will become a koi fish that grows in the river, not in the tank. I hope you guys will become wonderful summits that will build a great future by being courageous and challenging. All right, and the next message from our head of middle school. And then she said, rather than going fast alone, let's go far together. Yes, yeah. So please understand the no more culture in Korea. This is very important to our kids. And the next head of our Korean class team, she said, "Thank you so much for coming to 필리핀한국국제학교 consistently. And it's only a short time on Saturday morning, but if that time accumulates, you will find yourself improving at some point." And lastly, this is a message from me. Without a mother tongue, it is useless for us to be a Korean descendant, and it is meaningless for us. Speak English well. Be confident and be proud of yourself for investing time and then giving an effort in building your identity as a Korean. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 주 선생님, 주선화 선생님. Thank you very much for introducing to us the Philippine 한국학교 and providing us a glimpse of how young heritage learners in the Philippines learn Korean formally. Maraming salamat po. And let me now introduce our last speaker this afternoon. Mr. Miguel Navarro, or Migs, is currently working as a strategist and project manager for Samsung R&D Institute Philippines, a role that includes ensuring smooth interactions between his Filipino colleagues and their Korean counterparts. Prior to his current work, he was a market researcher handling different studies for clients in various industries. He was also a management consultant, mainly for telecommunications and high-tech industry players. He is a graduate of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, with a degree in business administration. His interest in Korean culture and language started when he went on exchange to Seoul, and he has not looked back since. So everyone, 여러분, let us all welcome Mr. Migs Navarro.
Hi everyone. 안녕하세요. 안녕하십니까. So I'd like to first of all, I'd like to thank everyone, especially KRC and Hey Kyusunim for inviting me to talk at this workshop. So I'd like to check if I'm audible and if my screen is visible. Hello. Okay. So let me start the talk on implications of speaking Korean in a Korean company. So a lot of this is based on my and my colleagues' experiences working at Samsung as part of the strategy team, and also basically as a Korean bilingual. We're mostly exposed to the Koreans who come into the country or are working for Samsung here in the country. So again, I'm Migs. I'm a market researcher, a management consultant, and a strategist. And so I went on exchange to Dongguk University in 2012, and then starting 2015, I formally started learning the Korean language. So when I was there in 2012, there was no relevance for me because it was just a semester, and then it was also all my subjects were also in English. And then in 2020, I started working for Samsung, which is a conglomerate here, a conglomerate in Korea. Before Samsung, I wasn't really using Korean language at work, so it was a big adjustment for me coming from a Western, a Filipino company, a Western company, and then here a Korean company. So today, I'd like to discuss. My discussion will revolve on three things, which is to discuss experiences working as a Korean speaker in a conglomerate. I'd like to provide insight as to what may be expectations of both Koreans and locals towards bilinguals. And also, I'd like to outline what may be challenges as well as benefits of exploring a bilingual career. I would think a lot of the ones on the call here would, if they are currently working in a Korean company, would kind of attest to the experiences I have outlined here today. So I'd like to start with a generalization. We know that effective comms is fundamental to success. So we need it to function We needed to get things done. We needed to build relationships, and we also needed to grow. So it's about learning and it's about sharing knowledge and processing information. Our work is highly affected by the quality of relationships we keep. This is especially true in a Korean company. A lot of the things aren't really being documented. Instead, in a very a lot of the things are not communicated in English. So as a bilingual, you have the responsibility to bridge that gap. So aside from being a strategist for Samsung, basically, on top of that, I liaise between Korea and Philippines for project requirements. So basically, our counterparts in the headquarters in Suwon and in Seoul are outsourcing their projects to us, and we communicate with them on how to deliver these projects. So we translate and interpret both from Korean to English and English to Korean. So it's either they send in documentations here and then we translate it, and then or they come here to have meetings and workshops, or our Filipino counterparts go there to have meetings and workshops, and we come with them, we go with them in those meetings. So of course, it also includes nonverbal clues and bad body language. So if you're in a meeting, sometimes there are, say, body language that is hard to interpret for a non-speaker. We are being asked also what it might mean um, from a Korean perspective. Of course, aside from actual work, we're also responsible for teaching Korean to interested Filipino employees. A lot of it is beginner Korean, which is reading and writing in Hangul, insa or greetings, and also we advocate Korean culture in the organization. So talking observance of Korean holidays, so talking about what Seollal may be, what Chuseok may be for Koreans, or what other holidays our Korean counterparts may be um, observing, so that there's appreciation of Korean culture in our organization, even if we are here in the Philippines. We know as bilinguals that communication is much more complicated than desired. So while it's language, the culture kind of gets in the way, for lack of a better um, way of saying it. So it's a way of thinking and living, a set of attitudes, values, and norms, which can be unwritten and written, which influences our words and behavior. So if only it were that simple, no, that there's no culture involved, it would be very much easier for bilinguals to work. So we might all be also familiar with the cultural iceberg. A lot of it, not many are observable. So we know language, food and art, festivals and holidays, traditions and customs. But sometimes there's a lot more beneath the surface. So we need to go beyond language to ensure effective communications. So it's content plus context. So a lot of our work requires guaranteeing mutual understanding. So it's not ensuring that nothing gets lost in a translation. So in both oral and written work, a lot of it might not be a direct translation of what you're translating or interpreting, but a more appropriate translation. And then we need to explain why each party may behave a certain way. So it's about providing context on how, say, our local counterparts or our Korean counterparts may be driving or getting into an action or decision. So of course, this goes both ways, no, to Koreans, to the Filipinos, and then Filipinos to Koreans, which is a pretty delicate balancing act to do. So let's talk about the stick, no? So the carrot and the stick. Um, there are stumbling blocks when it comes to intercultural communication that we that we experience every day. So there are a lot of assumption of similarities. Um, we sometimes think that our use of language as a Filipino speaking in English will be the same as a Korean speaking English. Nonverbal misinterpretations such as body language, dress code, eye movement, etc. Stereotyping, tendency to evaluate, and high anxiety. So these are sometimes these are things that we might be experiencing as a bilingual working in a company. So to get over stumbling blocks, we can get non-speakers aware of possible differences in key aspects of Korean culture that may affect work. So we outlined three things here. First is nunchi, or literally meaning eye measure. So it's emotional intelligence, perceptiveness, or reading the room, or the ability to listen and to gauge other state of mind or mood. So a lot of since the Koreans might not be able to communicate as much as they want to the Filipino counterparts, it is up to us to see if there's anything that we can help them with. No, so it's also the same with our Filipino counterparts to our Korean bosses. Next is kibun. So it might mean pride, mood, or feelings. So it's most of the time better to just soften the messaging to avoid confrontation. And it may also be true to many East Asian cultures that are non-confrontational. Sometimes sometimes if we make them feel bad or we hurt their kibun, uh, in the next time you do something, you're not gonna be included anymore. So there's a tendency to do that. And of course, yay or manners. So Korea is a society where respect is of utmost importance. So we need to be wary of ranks and positions. Sometimes they have two titles. So the rank in the whole organization, and then the position as say in a smaller organization. And then we need to call people respectfully, and we need to observe good manners in a lot of settings. No? So just to share, there is a movement in our organization to be more quote unquote Western. So there's a move to do away with the position names, say calling them 상무님, 전무님, or 팀장님. So it's more, we're trying to make it more friendly for a lot of people. So it's normally just the name plus name uh, if you can. But as a Korean speaker, I can't really do away with with the respectful ranks and positions. So I'm still in an adjustment phase for that. We also need to have our local our non-speakers realize that the things are not limited to office settings. So, but also in occasions out of office. So that's in drinking sessions or sulchari and in hesik. We're not as big in hesik now, but maybe that's because it's already the pandemic. But we also do this. No? So of course, observing your good manners when eating with your boss or with eating with other people um, is normally appreciated. But there are also some who say it's burdensome. Say they're already working here in the Philippines. They don't need to adhere to Korean society norms. They say it's a butamsaro. But yeah, no, I do try to wait for them to say that before I stop observing any of the manners that I know, especially in Hesik, in Sulchari. Sometimes even in the seat arrangement in a restaurant, that also matters. Hey, getting over the stumbling blocks next is to use language or vocabulary appropriate in the workplace. So if you think you have learned a lot about Korean already, that may be true, but sometimes it's even different in um, an office setting, which is what I realized. So there are a lot of industry specific or workplace specific vocabulary in Korean that I didn't really expect that I would learn. Um, so you see here, we actually created a list of things that we try to, so that we can go back to them every now and then and see if there are other new words that we can add. So it's like kuhyan, kagung, songnung, etc., etc. And then there are also how do I say this? Workplace counterparts for your normal everyday Korean. So to reply or answer, it's not, we don't say it head up, we say 회신. We don't say 보내 for send, we say 송부. And then this year is 금년, not 올해. And then we say 어찌됐든, not 어차피. But maybe that's, a more also, more, more also on the preference um, the, of the Korean bosses that we have here. So it's up to bilinguals to simplify these for others' ease of understanding. And this also goes for English to Korean. So there are a lot of complicated, highfalutin words in English that you would have to simplify for your Korean counterparts also. And of course, there are sometimes that you would have to learn some hanja, sometimes specific to the industry, or sometimes substitute to words and everyday words and prepositions we use in Korean. So my favorite sample to give is 등 or etc. So for some reason we write 등 like this. We say 별, we write 별 like this, and we write 타 like this. Especially in reporting. So it's all about striking a balance. Sometimes there are differing opinions between locals and foreigners, and sometimes these conflicting opinions are actually just coming from the same motivation to do well, to do our best, to do great things. So we are in actually a very good position to create win-win situations for everyone. Sometimes it's up to us to reconcile everyone's differences and create a compromise for everyone to be happy. So what do we get? Subjecting ourselves to those challenges. First is the challenge itself is the prize. In my perspective, we gain better grasp of the language because we have daily practice in reading, writing, and speaking, which may not be true for a lot of Filipino Korean learners. I have been learning Korean since 2015. And I haven't had a lot of the opportunity. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk or to speak in the language. So when I came into Samsung, it was quite an adjustment. The speaking is a work in progress, but I think at least the listening is something that I have down pat. So little grammar and spelling lapses, which may have gone unnoticed, can be corrected. So sometimes even pronunciation. So like the markers in sometimes they pronounce it. Sometimes the non-speakers or the Filipino Korean speakers would say unun, so that gets corrected. And then training in business writing, which may be different in terms of composition. So a lot of the report writing that we do here is not in complete sentences or not even in the way of composing your paragraphs in topic 2. It's not even like that. It's more about phrases, and it's a very specific kind of way to compose in. Even sometimes we even do away with particles. So yeah, it was quite an adjustment. Yeah, as I said earlier, we encounter words we didn't think we will need, and we can talk about we try to talk about anything and everything under the sun, so that we can train in Korean conversation. So just this week, there was a meeting, and before the start of the meeting, we were being asked, "Oh, who do you like as a Korean idol or Korean singer?" And that kind of topic is something that we talk about a lot in the office, even if it's not about work. So even in those little things, we are able to practice speaking in the language. Um, I also think it's character building. So you become more empathic and understanding because you're able to understand more about what you're talking about. And also you're able to give more compassion to people who may not be as adept on the language or have no ability to speak the language, and try to think what they may be feeling as well. Agility, sometimes there is a need to act swiftly with purpose, um, often catering to sudden requests, demands, and revisions. Sometimes it's the HQ's fault. They have a change of mind, so you have to act quickly so that you don't miss the deadline. And patience, it's being more okay with mistakes, being more tolerant, and having the um, determination to continue on. So we think I think you also get a better worldview. You understand of how the world works better, what make these similarities and differences, and what keeps us together. Um, Stronger self-awareness, so you know yourself better because you know what might be your strengths and limitations, and what kind of things you might need to do to become even better. So because of these, you are even quicker to adapt. No? So you're more comfortable with uncertainty. You're not afraid to commit mistakes, and you can adapt to situations um, where you may not have been before. So you're okay with baptism by fire, basically. Yeah. So this is just a tip. You can always lend a helping hand, both on mostly to the Korean counterparts who come here or who are staying here. So you will have to go above and beyond the call of duty some of the times, especially for ones who are just new here. Say they uprooted their family from Korea. Of course, they brought their kids, so you would have to help them look for English tutors, or help them look for a school that can teach them, and also if they want help during the touring around, etc. You can treat them as learning experiences, and of course that's also another way of you learning the language. That's also more exposure to their culture. So don't sweat it too much. It's okay to make mistakes, and you will know what to do next time. So, as Pengso is saying here, you're already doing well. 잘했어요. So just to close my talk, so three things. I think bilinguals have it good. They get to know and understand content and context together easily and quickly versus non-speakers. And you also have pick of the litter, or you also get news first because you can understand them. Bilinguals have it not so good because you understand them. There's a very big responsibility task of you to strike a balance and ensuring nothing falls through the cracks. And bilinguals have it best. No? We create win-win situations for the good of all. And we should be striving to make these win-win situations each and every time. So yeah, 감사합니다, 여러분. Again, I'm Miguel Navarro. I hope you learned something from this talk. Thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다, Mr. Navarro. Thank you very much for that presentation. We appreciate the work that you do in bridging not only the language, but also the cultural gap in your workplace. You have also provided us insights on how the Sanseng NIMS can teach better to prepare our students in the real world, where they will be applying their knowledge of Korean language and culture. So thank you. And so, the virtual floor is now open for questions and comments. May we request our speakers to please turn on their cameras? Please turn on your cameras. Thank you. To those who want to ask questions, kindly type in your questions in the chat box. We also welcome comments from the audience. The speakers themselves may ask each other questions and share their comments and insights about their colleagues' presentation. So our first question here is from Miss Anya Mendelebar. She wants to know about, she's curious about how our fellow KFL teachers were like. What her questions are: number one, what were the most common challenges that other Southeast Asian KFL teachers experience in teaching their students? And two, how were they able to overcome those challenges based on what they shared with you? Marco Sansingnim and Tara Sansingnim?
Tara Sansingnim, would you like to answer first? Ako muna. Sige. Well, honestly, I didn't really have the opportunity to talk to my fellow teachers about this, about challenges. But based on our, I'd say, little interaction outside the discussions in class, ano ba? Maybe the proficiency in the language as well. Although, as mentioned earlier, many of the participants were already very good at the Korean language, but we also met some of those teachers who we can say are not as proficient as the rest. No? So this is perhaps one challenge that they also experience just as I do. So how they deal with that challenge, I'm not exactly sure then as well, since I wasn't able to ask. But given the fact that they were given this opportunity to participate in a training program that we also participated in, I can say that perhaps this is also a government-to-government partnership as well. So they had support from their own local government. So they got that recommendation to further and improve their skills, just like us. So this is just one way that I can answer these questions. Perhaps Sarah Sansinim can add something.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And also, part of our training was focused on creating speaking exercises. At the activity part, like speaking exercises, I think many of the learners struggle with like speaking Korean. They will be good in spelling or writing, reading, but of course, there's not much opportunity to practice Koreans to each other or to another Korean, right? So I think that's the focus. So I think our professors in that training were trying to focus on creating very effective speaking exercises as part of the classroom lesson plan every time.
Thank you. So I was listening to your presentation, and their insights and reflections based on your training. And I wonder, is it possible for you, Marco Sanseng-Nim and Sarah Sanseng-Nim, to conduct like an echo seminar for the benefit of our SPFL Sanseng-Nims and also our fellow KFL Sanseng-Nims in HEIs?
It's flattering that you considered us to also conduct a similar seminar. Although personally, we might not be able to conduct a similarly expertly kind of training that we had in Korea recently. But definitely, we are very we will be very happy to share what we learned from the training. But perhaps maybe we can also collaborate again with KRC so we can organize such an activity with our fellow KFL teachers.
Yeah, that would be good. I hope UPKRC can also organize like sort of seminar for our teachers. The next question is my question again for Miss Ju Sanseng-Nim. Is there resistance to learn Korean formally in school, among kids who were born and raised in the Philippines? Don't they think that using the language with their parents and friends is enough? And wouldn't they prefer going to private schools in the Philippines instead?
Yes, of course there are there are resistance. 필리핀한국국제학교 is not regular school. We are Saturdays school. So during the weekdays they go to private school or international schools, and then every Saturday morning they have to come to another school early in the morning. So the kids, they sometimes lose their interest, and then they really don't want to come. But parents just push them through. Sometimes it happens, but it's not because they don't want to learn Korean, because they want to sleep or play. But so that's the most challenging, make them keep interest. So I have reason to come. Yes. So in the beginning, maybe our school were having hard time to find the solutions, but now we have more dedicated teachers, and then we have good facilities, and then we have the piles of history how we teach our kids. So most of kids, they in the beginning they hated to come, but time goes by, they really love to come, and then they are waiting for the new semester and the new year, like that.
So that's good to know. So the interest builds up as they attend the Saturday school.
Yeah, although like they are really, they can communicate with their parents, but the parents and our teachers, we are aiming them to lead very high level as a native Korean.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so they really have to learn the language formally, because it's very important that they know the structure, the grammar.
Yeah,
it's their native language after all.
Yes.
And here's another question for you, Ju Sanseng-Nim. It's from Dr. Be. As you mentioned, aside from acquiring language competences, KISP students' ethnic and cultural identities are well taken care of. What are the common problems some students exhibit in terms of cultural adaptation or recognizing their heritage? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. It also can be answered back similarly. So the reason why do I need to come? So that's the most, and then they just ask themselves, can I be a Korean, if I come to this Saturday school every week? Then I can speak in English without any problem. So I can be an American or Filipino without any hassles. But do I need to be, especially from the multicultural students, multicultural family students? So that is another challenge. Not just keep them interested, we have to enlighten them the importance of learning Korean and cultures. So, like, we have to show them the difference. All the curriculum that we are preparing is really expose them and encourage them to explore the Korean cultures they learn as a Korean. So, yeah, that's their the common problems and also our big goal, never-ending goals.
I see. Okay, thank you. Choose something new. This question is addressed to Mr. Navarro. This is a question from Ms. Ana Mendelebar. Do training departments from various global companies, like in Samsung, for instance, usually have program for Korean bilingual employees to address the cultural divide? Also, I wonder if newbies still have foundational skills training, like for customer service agents in most BPO companies. Please share with us the training curriculum and perhaps duration as well.
I'll answer the first question first. There aren't any trainings that I'm familiar with, even going to the so we have an L&D website or a knowledge management system where all the videos of trainings and that may be available to all employees. I don't think I've seen anything that's specifically for Korean bilingual employees. Mostly because, at least for the ones that are hired here in the Philippines in our organization. So two of us have a master's two of us have a master's who went to Korea to study. So there's some familiarity with the culture, and then another has been, has been learning Korean for a long time as well. Even though if it was self-study, so a lot of the cultural learnings should have been in there. It is actually the other way around. We are actually the ones providing learning to non-speakers. So for training for us, I don't think exists. But I think it should have. We should have training also internally. To also to add to that also, at least in the greater network of Samsung research centers in the world, I think only in the Philippines there are a lot of bilingual speakers. Maybe that's also one of the reasons that they're not providing that kind of training. Next, in terms of foundational skills, like for customer service agents, the expectation is actually you can already speak Korean when you come in. So there's really no training. So at least for the openings or the ones that we hire, level 4 or higher in terms of topic. So in terms of training curriculum and duration, that's something that's also non-existent in Samsung.
Thank you very much, Mr. Navarro. My colleague at the Ateneo Korean Studies program has a very serious question here. Mr. Magoncia is asking that since Marco Sem and Sarah Sansangnim learned how to sing Pansori, pwede po kaya ng pasample?
Sure po ba tayo talaga dyan? But maybe we'll ask an expert for that na lang po.
or probably at another time. Okay. Thank you. JM Sansangnim. All right. So Mr. Nervin Jan Alban wants to share his thoughts. He said that, I hope there will be a time that there will be a specific bachelor's degree in the Philippines, specifically for KFL education for the future generation. KFL educators can for the future generation, KFL educators can take if they want to pursue KFL education as their bachelor's degree. Okay. And to that, Dr. Be has this to say. The UP Department of Linguistics offers Plan C Korean, where you major in Philippine linguistics while taking Korean as a minor program. The linguistics department will try its initiatives in working with the UP College of Education in the future, so that we could see how necessary language education, especially KFL courses or trainings, could be offered. Also, the Ateneo Korean Studies program, thank you, offers a minor in Korean studies. So you may want to check out our FB page. Yeah. Okay, so since we don't have any more questions, maybe we can ask our speakers their parting words or words of inspiration and encouragement to our fellow Sansang names. Yeah, you may start, Marco Sansang Nim.
All right. Again, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to share our experience during our training last year. And hopefully, there will be more opportunities for Filipino KFL teachers to also experience training, at the same time exposure to the Korean culture in Korea. And may there be a more fruitful collaboration between two countries now that, thanks to Hallyu and more Filipinos are now more interested in Korea, not just the Korean language. So we are looking forward to also seeing more Filipinos who are interested in becoming a KFL teacher. That's all. Thank you.
Can I go next? I think from the training that Marco Sansinim and I attended last year, and also the training I attended with UP and in July with Asst business school, came out of Korea, came back to the Philippines, feeling inspired. Like we can do so much in the Philippines as KFL educators. And I've been like thinking of this grand dream that we will have like a shared community for KFL educators, maybe in Facebook, other social media, where we can exchange insights, best practices on how to teach specific topics, give suggestions on how to conduct specific and effective classroom activities. So, and also probably upload a lot of content, like Filipino Korean content in podcasts, blog, or other things. I think this is just the start, and I hope like we will have more like that content and collaboration with KFL educators in the future. And we're really excited to work with everyone and share and learn together. Thank you very much for this opportunity again to PKRC.
Yes,
honestly, I was so surprised. Like so many KFSC teachers are here. And then it's really honored and really happy moments that Filipino teachers are really spend a lot of time to study and then dedicate their life to teach and spread this language to many people. So there is nothing I can say. Just thank you so much. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. Our Korean community have more opportunity to help, and they have more seminars or workshop for you teachers. 감사합니다.
Okay. Again, thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to talk about our experiences in a workplace setting. I hope more of us are able to, reach a point where we can comfortably enter the workforce as a bilingual, and also give us more opportunities, also maybe work there, and then or work in the Korean companies that we have here. I think the ask from me will be to have more business or industry focused language trainings. At least from my experience, that's something um, that that was a gap. But I would surmise that's because not a lot of Korean speakers would reach our level that would go to that would make them go to a bilingual career path. Um, so hopefully in the future we have more of us. We are 98 now. Maybe next year we're what, 500, 1,000. We don't know. But thank you again to everyone. I enjoyed sharing my experiences with you all. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. So once again, let us give our speakers a virtual round of applause. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us this afternoon. And so this afternoon, we had some very interesting and enlightening presentations. And I am certain that everyone has learned a lot from our speakers. This time, may we ask Professor Farah Cunanan to share her insights, comments, and suggestions on the presentations. Let me first introduce Ms. Cunanan. Ms. Farah C. Cunanan is an assistant professor at the UP Department of Linguistics, where she teaches linguistics, Japanese, and Chinese Mandarin. She served as the department chair from 2016 to 2018. She is currently finishing her PhD in Philippine linguistics and writing her dissertation on modality in Philippine languages. 네. Ms. Cunanan, Professor Cunanan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Here are some of the insights I gathered from presentations and discussion and my reflections on today's workshop. So first, amid this highly globalized and interconnected world that we are in right now, it is still important that we know more about our own language, culture, and society to help us situate where we are. So we saw from the presentations earlier that students and even us teachers get excited about language exchange and cultural exchange activities because we not only learn about the other, but we also learn about ourselves. We also need to take a step back and reflect on our motivations and goals in our teaching and learning to help us understand ourselves more and become better at what we do. We also need to acknowledge that despite our similarities, each of us are unique in our own ways. So that's why self-assessment and reflection are important in language learning or learning in general. Because compared to standardized forms of assessment, which assumes that everyone is or should be the same, study journals, reflective essays bring out what's significant to each of the learners. Next, the pandemic continues to show us that we need to adapt and be flexible to whatever circumstances that we face, be it our sudden shift to remote learning or going back to our classrooms, or our need to contextualize our teaching, the materials that we use. We constantly need to adapt and readapt, learn and relearn. So we need to continually update ourselves in terms of content, be it language knowledge, technical aspects of the language, social-cultural information, pop culture, what's trending, and so on. And pedagogy, like class activities, teaching methods, assessment and feedback, materials creation, and even educational philosophy. That is why events like these are important to us teachers and also for our learners. We need to also challenge ourselves to engage in more reflection and research about teaching and learning. efforts from the ground, particularly efforts that we teachers do, are very important because these are attuned to the needs of both students and teachers. In relation to flexibility, recently the academic world is shaken by the AI software ChatGPT. It feels like 2020 again, when we were so anxious about assessment and whether our students' outputs would be authentic or not. Would the outputs they submit to us be their own work, or would it be something that a machine generated? While there are a lot of ethical and philosophical issues related to the use of AI, it is a reality that we have to face. We would never be able to prevent learners from using these tools. So we would have to accept this reality and figure out ways to take advantage of these tools, just like how we learned and got used to technology when we shifted to remote learning. This also prompts us to continually innovate on our teaching and assessment methods. We are constantly reminded of the need for students to acquire 21st century skills, and as teachers, it is also vital that we develop these skills ourselves amid this context that we live in right now. And lastly, the pandemic emphasized the value of our connections and interactions with people, be it our family, peers, students, teachers, and even enemies or rivals. This explains why many of us, teachers and learners, struggled with remote learning. We saw from the presentations that we need and seek interactions inside and outside the classrooms. We build confidence and are motivated more when we are able to communicate with native speakers or co-speakers of our target languages. We also saw how feedback from teachers, both academic and personal, matters to learners, and how the reflection and feedback we get from learners and from our peers serve as confirmation and inspiration for us to continue what we do. And as the presentation show, our interactions with our peers, our students, and other people also teach us to be patient, empathetic, and caring. While work from the ground is important, institutional support is also vital in the success of projects. When I say institution, I refer to social institutions such as the family, right? So we need support from the family, from our own community, from peers, and of course, our own institutions, our schools, and government agencies, because these help sustain the efforts that we do. Dan Yuravsky, a professor of linguistics and computer science, does research on food and language. Through his research, he concludes this: innovation in science happens when you talk to your neighbors. So this highlights the sense of community among teachers, learners, administrators, and other stakeholders. And if you're familiar, of course, with Ite1 class, it tells us that people are the key to the success of business. I would say that it's our good relationship with people that's important. That is why venues like these, activities like these, are important, not only for us to be updated with teaching and learning methods and trends, but also give us the moral support that we need, that we are not alone in our battles. And lastly, while we put learners at the core of teaching, we teachers should also take care of our own needs so we can address the needs of students. Thank you very much to the fruitful exchange of ideas throughout this day. And I hope that this community of teachers and learners is sustained for the continued development of Korean language education in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cunanan, for that very insightful synthesis. So at this time, may we please request the speakers to turn on their cameras so that we can have a group photo. May we ask Ms. Pam to please take a group photo of the speakers? Ms. Pam? Professor Cunanan, can you also please join us? Can you please turn on your camera as well? Thank you. Okay, Miss Pam, can you please take a photo? Okay.
1, 2, 3. Nasihan bondo. Ha나, 둘, 셋. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Miss Pam. Okay, so please let me virtually present the certificates of appreciation to our esteemed speakers this afternoon. So this certificate of appreciation is presented to Mr. Marco Angulo for facilitating the workshop entitled In-Service Teacher Training for Southeast Asian KFL Educators at the 8th Philippine Korean Studies Symposium KFL Educators Workshop, organized by the University of the Philippines Korea Research Center and the Department of Linguistics at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, given on the 4th of February 2023. So the same certificate will be given to Farah 선생님 and Miss Ju 선생님 and Mr. Navarro. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everyone, again for joining us today. May I ask? Sorry. And to formally conclude today's workshop, may we call on Dr. Kyungmin Bae, the OIC Director of the UPKRC, to share with us her closing remarks.
안녕하세요. Thank you so much, Ao 선생님. Today we have almost 100 participants, and it's quite surprising because we know how many SPFA Korean teachers are teaching in different public high schools in different regions, and we are also very happy to have our own trainers from 2021 KFL training offered by UP Department of Linguistics, and also as requested by Department of Education. We also have today, I think, pre-service SPFL Korean teachers who are going to be assigned in their respective schools and teach Korean, and perhaps they will also have immersion training first in Korea and then come back, and finally they can really start teaching Korean for grade 7 to 10 students. And we are very thankful to have 7 speakers today. Since this morning and up to this afternoon, we have Filipino speakers and Miss Ju from KISP, who's Korean, but who really shared what's really going on in their school, because it's quite rare to know about heritage Korean students in the Philippines. So hopefully all of us learn something together, because after all, we teach Korean in different schools, but we do the same profession. So we really hope that today's workshop was helpful for you, so that this can be another nutrition to have your profession grown, and you can really have this not just as work, but you can really enjoy teaching and learning from your own students. Lastly, I will just mention what we have prepared in February. So we have another workshop, but this is by Korean and Filipino graduate students. So we will have Next Gen Koreanese Scholarship, Next Gen Koreanese workshop on February 17. That's Friday. So I think we will do it on Zoom again. So everyone who's interested, you can just come in and you can just listen and ask questions to students. And then last event we prepare this month is the public lecture by the former Korean ambassador Dong Man-han. So this will be done on February 25. This is Saturday morning. So we welcome everyone. And as Dr. Cristina Gallego mentioned in the opening, Linguistics Department prepared so many events each month to celebrate centennial and different activities. So please stay tuned, and we hope to see you in different events. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다, Dr. Be. So everyone, may we request that you please turn on your cameras for the official photo of Miss Pam.
Yes.
Assist us in taking the photo.
We will do 2 shots. Wait, where am I? Ay, bakit di ko to? Oh, naka-on. Ay, kita po. Okay. Okay. 하나, 둘, 셋. 다시 한 번 더. 하나, 둘, 셋. Okay, next tab. Sir, opo. Wala pa din.
That's blur.
That's blur. Okay, 하나, 둘, 셋. 다시 한 번 더. 하나, 둘, 셋. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for taking part in today's event.
Ma'am, before I
Yes.
forgot, the certificate of participants for today's workshop is already up on the chat box. So it will be open until 5 p.m. in the afternoon today.
You mean the evaluation form?
Yes.
So the link
So,
to the form is in the chat box.
yes.
And certificates will be sent via email.
Yes.
So once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. 감사합니다. 마raming salamat po.